the intelligentsia and the academia have a very important role to play. Because when you belong to the academia, it is something you are always led and guided by objectivity. Exactly that in Professor Sahab also, when he gave his lectures here on the partition of India, independence of India, he said, let us be objective. Okay, and this is the evidence. Evidence he has acquired through interviews. Now, when we talk of science, we generally think of natural sciences. But science gives us a methodology, a method or a way to look at the world. And that is what is most important in not only science, as a concept called scientific temper. See, I would come to, I do not know much about what has happened in Pakistan, but in India, that the interest in modern science, I'm not talking of medieval or ancient science, it came along with our modern reform and freedom movement. For example, in Bengal, it was with Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The reformers themselves, many in India would also, or maybe elsewhere, consider him as a social reformer, religious reformer. But while doing that, he was talking of the life on earth. This is what a friend of mine has explained to you, that what is the difference between a believer and a non-believer, right? Very simple answer was given. Both of us, you are bothered about life after death, but both of us are interested in life before death.
Taqseem Hind 1947, the bloody partition of Punjab, तनाज़े कश्मीर 1965 की पाक भारत जंग, सानियाए मशरकी पाकिस्तान और भारत का किरदार, खालिस्तान मूवमेंट और ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी का दौरा लाहौर और कारगिल जंग, इंडियन पार्लियामेंट पे हमले, मुंबई हमले, बालाकोट पे भारतीय हमला, कलभूषण यादव और बलोचिस्तान, तनाज़ात और इल्ज़ामात में अमन की तलाश. Watch Indo-Pak Dialogue with Dr. Ishtiaq Ahmed and leading voices from India. Talking Politics on Federal Post. Hello, good evening and Assalamu alaikum. This is Talking Politics and I'm Hassan Zafar, and this is a special episode in which we generate a dialogue between India and Pakistan, and today we are joined by Professor S. Chatterjee and Dr. Ishtiaq Ahmed Sahab. Let me give you a very brief introduction of Professor Sahab. He is from Bangalore and he did his MSc in physics from the Calcutta University, and he got his PhD in physics from the Indian Institute of Science. So we have Professor Chatterjee with us, and it's an opportunity to discuss with him how science can build a bridge between the two nations. Dr. Saab, would you like to add something to Professor Saab's introduction before he begins?
Absolutely.
That is fine, and we will get to know each other as our conversation continues.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would say that this dialogue has become possible because of Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed's visit to India last year and also this year, where we had a lot of time to interact amongst each other. Yes, please.
Yes, Dr. Saab, please.
No, I would only say that the two times we have met, we found that there was so much in common in terms of values, in terms of how we see the relation between our two people, our two states, that I needed more time. But, all visits have to come to an end. So finally, I thought we should invite Professor Chatterjee now to share his views about science and the role it can play. Scientists can play, in improving our societies and relations between our two states. Yeah.
Yes, please. And this is a very interesting topic, because this is one thing. Science is universal. No matter whatever is your passport, whatever is your citizenship, or no matter whatever is your religion, science does not change. And that is universal, and that is definitely a platform through which people can come together. And I will tell my experience, two experiences. One of them was I was a visiting scientist to the International Center for Theoretical Physics, Trieste, Italy, whose director was Professor Abdus Salam. We all know about him, and we respect him a lot. And that gave me a chance when I was doing PhD, and few years after my PhD, before I joined the Indian Institute of Astrophysics as a faculty member. That gave me a chance to meet scientists from different countries, especially from the developing countries, and many of them were scientists from Pakistan. And we shared what I would say a very warm relationship between ourselves, which still continues. So that is what I would say, that while as a profession we may share science, in my case it was physics, and all my Pakistani friends, amongst them Professor Saab knows Professor Nair, educationist, science popularizer, rationalist. So, and that friendship continues. And therefore, I believe that academia is an area in which a greater interaction between people will help to foster a better understanding between the countries and citizens of these countries. This is one. And my second experience, of course, is more recent, and that has to do with Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed's visit here. Of course, we did not talk of techniques of science, but our ideas were what science can do and what in India we call scientific temper. So scientific temper, the temper of science, this is most important for us. And that is what we have to keep in mind, and we can develop on this particular subject as we as we keep talking amongst ourselves. So just at the beginning, I would stop there. Maybe we can expand upon it, and Professor Saab can also expand on this.
I was just wondering,
yes,
sir, if you can explain what is the scientific temper. Can you develop this idea? Because I would like people to understand why it is different from so many other things which are also going around. What is the scientific temper? Yeah.
See, this is the terminology as far as we know. It was first put in writing by Jawaharlal Nehru in his The Discovery of India. This was written from jail. And while being in jail, he was the freedom movement of India always tried to bring a vision what the India of the future is going to be. And there's a very succinct expression that Nehru has used in his book. He says, it is the temper of a free man.
Very interesting. Okay. Temper of a free man.
I can expand upon that also, and how science comes in there, I'll come in later. But then I have noted this, that here he has written that that this is a progress, a journey in which people try to question, people try to go through experiments, observations, inferences, discard their earlier held views if they are found to be incorrect. And he says this is an adventurous journey. I think Nehru's words I can't reproduce here, but this is what he means, and it is written in extremely poetic English. Rather, I love those words because they really conjure up a vision like a poetry, as if I'm reading poetry. But while reading that, he takes us to a journey of history of mankind and brings us that at this juncture, this is what independent India is going to do. Learn from the world and contribute to the world. So, in a nutshell, I would only do that. But for a more interested reader, I can give you the references of Nehru's book if you want.
No,
Of
it's a
course,
very famous book.
all of you know. Book all of you know which book, The Discovery of India, which
Yeah.
chapter it appears. It is not difficult to find out.
No, not at all. So the scientific temper, yeah,
Yes, please.
distinguishes.
What I was thinking, sir, that by this brief, very interesting introduction which Professor Chatterjee has provided us, by scientific temper, do we also mean rational mind and, if you like to say, an individual who is capable of thinking logically and is not driven by emotions and any kind of methodology that is surrounding certain political areas and political discourses.
One can even add that the scientific temper would mean an open-mindedness on the basis of evidence. So things should be accepted if the evidence is convincing, and if it is overwhelming, then it is proof. So scientific theories, as we understand, are never uh, permanent. They are subject to change if new data comes up. Similarly, I think what he meant was that we should learn from the world the way it has evolved, and in the light of that experience, even change the world for the better. So that is how I think Nehru was thinking, and that's what brought us together, because we both have the same approach that we should not be bound by any dogma, by any nationalist ideology, but by a common faith in the ability of human beings to rationally, logically look at the evidence and move forward.
Very interesting.
Yes.
So
you put it absolutely correct. That is the spirit with which this has been discussed, and we carry forward in our experience through various social movements that I'm involved with. Yes, please.
Please
yes,
tell
so
us
this
about some of
very
the
idea
social
of
movements. Yeah.
open-mindedness.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
Sorry, we are overlapping. This very idea of open-mindedness, one's ability to discard old beliefs if proven wrong, scientifically speaking. So that is a very important thing, I think, in the histories and the kind of emotions both nations are carrying at the moment. That if something is proven, which Dr. Ishtiaq Ahmed Saab, he has really endeavored to bring forward the facts of history, which may be contradictory to certain beliefs that we have on both sides. So that is what it means. Perhaps if I'm following your notion of this scientific temper correctly.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And here I believe that the intelligentsia and the academia have a very important role to play. Because when you belong to the academia, it is something you are always led and guided by objectivity. Exactly that in Professor Sahab also, when he gave his lectures here on the partition of India, independence of India, he said, let us be objective. Okay, and this is the evidence. Evidence he has acquired through interviews. Now, when we talk of science, we generally think of natural sciences. But science gives us a methodology, a method or a way to look at the world. And that is what is most important in not only science, as a concept called scientific temper.
But the question to you would be, Professor Saab, when we bring the method of natural sciences to society and human beings, how does that differ from the natural sciences? I think social sciences are far more difficult to test hypotheses the way one can do in a in a laboratory under controlled conditions. So, how does science operate in the lives of human beings? I would like you to talk about it.
Yes, yes, please. Dr. Zafar Saab also wanted to say something, please.
No, I'm just saying it's a very interesting question. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is a something between the methods in natural science and social science, because the observer in social science is a part of the system, whereas in natural science we say we isolate. The observer remains isolated and does not interact with the system. It doesn't change the system. But even there, in some cases, we cannot perform experiments. And here I will say, even in natural science, no, social science is very obvious that certain conditions can give rise to famine, as the Great Bengal Famine of 1943. Okay.
Yeah.
In order to test that hypothesis, we do not want another famine to be created, isn't it? So repeated experimentation often in social science is not permitted and desirable. But in natural science, we can do that, unless these are some very dangerous things which both countries have indulged in, like nuclear tests. Very unfortunate. There are cities are separated by only 30, 40 kilometers, and we are armed with nuclear weapons. So certain tests in natural science also ethics does not allow us to perform. But in natural science also certain experiments cannot be done at our will. For example, if I say that somebody wants to study interactions between two galaxies, I cannot say give me two galaxies. Here we are led only by observations. Nature performs experiments, keeps on performing uninterrupted, and we keep observing. So there are certain areas in natural science also we cannot do experiments ourselves, but observations lead us to certain conclusions. And in social science, certain experiments can become dangerous also, isn't it? As I said, to understand famine conditions, I don't want to create another famine. Correct. So
That's correct.
this kind of obstacles always will. It is, as you said, Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed sir, that social science is far more complex, because in natural science we know the definite laws that are working, forces. I would say forces. For example, gravitation or something else. But in natural science, there are certain fundamentals, but within the fundamentals, there can be so many parameters that it becomes far more difficult, and that is why it gives rise to many more debates, which become difficult to settle just by debating. So I would say, but it makes social science also very interesting in that sense, because of its diversity and complexity. It becomes, at least to me, I'm not a professional in social science, but I find it very, very interesting to see that how things operate, how human societies operate. Yes, please.
Tell us, you have been part of the movement to make science part of the life of people. Tell us something about it. What can we learn from that sort of movement? Yeah.
Yes, please. There were. See, I would come to. I do not know much about what has happened in Pakistan, but in India, that the interest in modern science. I'm not talking of medieval or ancient science. It came along with our modern reform and freedom movement. For example, in Bengal, it was with Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The reformers themselves, many in India would also, or maybe elsewhere, consider him as a social reformer, religious reformer. But while doing that, he was talking of the life on earth. This is what a friend of mine has explained to you that what is the difference between a believer and a non-believer, right? And very simple answer was given. Both of us, you are bothered about life after death, but both of us are interested in life before death.
I
So
think life
life
before, yes, life
before
before
death,
death is what is important for science. What happens
not only
afterwards?
science, it unites everyone. Even the
Yeah,
person who is highly spiritual cannot ignore the life before death.
that's
Okay.
correct.
Now,
So that
Raja
is the
Ram Mohan Roy said, yes, please.
that is the common ground for the believers and the
That
non-believers.
yes, every one of us will agree upon that. And
Exactly.
Raja Ram Mohan Roy, for that matter, brought in that modern science has to be brought in. In fact, he said that opening old seminaries. To give an example, it was in the British time that uh, a new college was to be opened in Calcutta. It was called the Sanskrit College. It was supposed to teach the Sanskrit texts. Now, Raja Ram Mohan Roy said that it is not necessary. We need a a college which will teach modern science, and he listed astronomy, medicine, mechanics, all these should have. So therefore, that was the starting point. And in Indian freedom movement or social movements, this continued. And Indian Science Congress developed, and all the science popularization became a very rich part of literature in India, especially in Bengal. And many great scientists were themselves great science popularizers themselves. Okay. So we found that was a way by which we should take the message of science, and apart from publications, our method was to have a dialogue. That is, collect people, organize lectures, and apart from formal lectures, have a dialogue. So this was one part. And then what we found that by mid 1980s, that there were so many groups in India in different states. See, we have a certain handicap that many of us don't know the language of another state. Yes, take the case of my wife with whom Professor Sahab has met. She can't speak Hindi. Her mother tongue is Tamil. She can't speak Hindi. Only two words she is confident with are namaste and chapati. Okay. So, yes, please. You saw that whenever we broke into Hindi, she was quiet. So this is so therefore we thought we'll work together, we'll share our experience, and through this process in 1987 we organized a march throughout India which is called Jan Vigyan Jatha. Jan means people, Vigyan means you may be familiar with word Janta, okay, which
Of course,
Bharatiya Janata Party and all the Janta people. Then Vigyan means science. And Jatha. Jatha, I think, is a Punjabi word, which means a
that
march. Am I right?
group, a mob, yes.
Yes, group
A
marching.
group of people,
So there were
group.
five such groups from different parts of India. They started on 2nd of October, which was Gandhiji's birthday in 1987. And we all converged in Bhopal on 7th of November. And 7th of November is the birthday of Sir C.V. Raman, a great scientist from India.
Yeah.
So it was understood that through this process, that people have what one of our reports has said. People have a hunger for science. They want to know. And in this is the process with which we began. We continue, and it would be interesting for all of you to know that one of our very important slogans in that Jatha was science for peace. Peace
Science
was
for peace.
science, yes,
Yeah.
science for peace. And that was also a very important message that and this is the way we continue. Yes, we continue. And of course, whenever communal issues come up in India, we take our stand. We always follow we always challenge communal ideology, in the sense that we try to say that no, this is the real truth. So very briefly, I would say like that. And Professor Saab has the calendar that we had brought out. I had, you remember, I gave you a calendar in which
I think
every,
yeah.
Yes, we have every month we gave certain discovery or certain scientific phenomena. If you change the calendar from one scientific phenomena, next month we discuss in the calendar, along with illustrations, another scientific phenomenon, and so on. So these are the process. These are multifarious. Different states have their different methods, but we pool our experiences.
But
So
tell
how
us,
can science work for peace? Dr. Saab, please go ahead.
I was just wondering, this experience of yours, how can it be used across the border so that we can bring scientists on board from both sides for an ongoing dialogue? I mean, you are the first scientist we have invited, and we would like, people of your learning to be part of this. But is there a movement to go across the border and try to connect with colleagues on the other side? I think there was some movement during when the nuclear blast took place. Then from both sides, the scientists were very active for a while, and that movement, I think, still exists in some form. Would you like to talk about it?
Yes, please. I would like to talk about it, because see, let us talk about India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
It was a very experience for me. 1980 to 1982, 3 times I had been to the ICTP to meet scientists from Pakistan, and in many things we had agreement. And the question of science, scientific temper, right? These were the things in which we all, and perhaps they were very concerned. Pakistani scientists were very concerned at that time. They were uh, passing through the rule of General Zia at that time. But nevertheless, we all decided to keep contacts, but keeping contact in those days was not so easy, through correspondence, etc. I mean, handwritten letters, it was not so easy. But in 1998, when India's test followed by Pakistan's test took place, by that time email had come and our interactions continued. Quite a long time it continued. In spite of Kargil and all those, they continued for quite some time. But after that, when we felt, or rather generally people started feeling, that the risk has receded, our activities also came down.
I think what happened was that the opposition to the two states becoming nuclear powers subsided because it was taken for granted that now that both sides have it, we cannot do anything about it. So, in this situation, when both have such weapons, it is very often argued that nuclear weapons, in a very strange way, are the best guarantee not to go to war. Do you agree with that, Professor?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The Kargil took place after these tests were after these tests, and luckily it stopped there.
Yeah.
But threats from both sides could always be there. You see today what Mr. Trump is saying. I mean, openly he is advising Israel that you go and bomb. So one never knows who is going to have the nuclear button in their hands. As long as nuclear weapons exist, no one actually is free. This was a misconception. Yes, please.
If you allow me to ask you, nuclear weapons no guarantee for peace. As we say, they are a deterrence. And today, because you brought up Donald Trump's statement, there are reports in the not so mainstream Indian media, but Indian media today, that Iran has also tested its nuclear weapon. I don't know if you have any information about that. So far, it's not announced officially. It's not in any major news channel, but reports are circulating. So that is the kind of situation. It also reminds me, Dr. Ishtiaq Saab, what we were discussing yesterday with Diljit Ami Saab, when he talked about the how Tiddi Dal attacked the kapas cotton crop in Multan, and similarly happened in India. So if that is the kind of information, the scientific information that both nations can share, how to grow better crop and how to increase your agricultural yield, that is the kind of area where, to begin with, not so risky and productive. Are these can we identify some areas in which some kind of common initiative can be taken?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Professor Chatterjee will talk about it. What are the concrete things on which we can cooperate? What do you think?
See, cooperation can be on two kinds of things, which we were. Some of the things are immediate, okay, but all these immediate things require, or if you want to have a practical implementation, it needs government efforts. That is, the governments in both the countries should agree that let us share this information. The situation at present is such that is very unlikely to happen. Okay, so it has to be in our capacity, individual capacity, and maybe right now what we can do, that we can talk about concepts like history of science, concepts of scientific temper, that what role science has played in the evolution of human society, and what science holds for future. This is what, and this has to be a process of dialogue, and that this process of dialogue does not require any help from the respective governments, and technology has made it easier, because that kind of dialogue that three of us are having, sitting at three different places in the world, it has become easier for us. So I would say the type of platform that you have created now, where I am a participant, and I have seen the other ones that Professor Saab has shared with Dr. Harbans Mukhia, or with Rakesh Ved, Rajan Khanna. So I think we should begin with starting point and questions of science. I had an idea that we should start a program in our platform, that All India People Science Network, of which I was the president till about 2 years ago, which we called Science Storytelling.
That's interesting. Tell us about
or
it.
In the north, we could think of a name, Science Guftagu.
Science Guftagu.
Okay, just a dialogue. Let us begin that. Yes, let us begin that. Yes, please.
Would you like to tell us more about this Science Guftagu and the science storytelling?
I have not yet. No. It is still in a concept-based phase in my mind. Okay, in my mind, it is still in the concept phase. We have not yet created a platform. I want to create it, and here the idea should be universality of science. See, all our lectures on science, we should have a platform of a dialogue. And my question is, why can't the platform of dialogue become a platform of storytelling? This is my concept. Wherever I go, I try that process. It is very successful. But on an organized basis for my organization, All India People Science Network, it has not taken place.
Okay.
To give you two examples, I'll give you just two examples. I'm toying with the idea for the last about a decade, but I've not found a good person to implement it. There are two subjects. There are two subjects on which I want a series, and that is water.
Okay.
Other is blood.
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 Okay.
Yes, please. See,
When
blood
you,
is some.
yeah,
biology,
See,
strictly in the
yes,
sense
please.
of
I'll tell you why I've selected only these two.
yeah,
No life can exist without water.
true.
Correct? But water
yeah.
can become a commodity.
As
Correct?
it has now these days.
It has become. It has become. And
Yeah.
I'm not going into the international issues like Indus water or anything else. But even if these obstacles were not there, even in our own respective countries, water is a commodity. No
Yeah, you have
industry
to
can
buy
run
a
without.
bottle of water. Otherwise,
Precisely.
yeah. When I was
Precisely.
growing
I'll
up
give you
in
an
Lahore,
example. Earlier in our railway stations, we could fill our bottle. We could fill our bottle from the tap. But nowadays
Yes.
you have to buy bottles.
that side. So it's a commodification. Yeah.
It is a commodification. This is water. And let us come to another Indian very unfortunate social situation. The caste system in India does not allow one caste to take what well from another. Okay. So while doing this, we are also challenging while trying to talk of water. We won't stop only in the science and technology of water or commodification, but also we have to challenge the practices which are holding us back. This is one. That's why I chose water. And the other is blood. Because there's nothing called a Hindu blood or a Christian blood or a Muslim blood. Blood
Yes.
transfusion can.
Yes, you take it from anywhere. You don't ask the religion of the
Exactly.
person.
I want to come to that.
Yes.
Blood transfusion, when giving a blood transfusion to save a life, we don't recognize from which religion the blood is coming. Right?
Certainly.
And so, yes, we want blood to save lives, and we don't want bloodletting through communal violence or any such thing. But I have not progressed in these. These are only ideas in me, in my mind. I've shared with my people, but we have not found an effective method. But this can become a subject of guftagu. Okay, this is, I feel so.
Absolutely. I think water is going to be a major problem. It is already a problem. Its
It is a problem,
commodification is a fact. And in the years to come, this is going to get much worse. There is a
precisely.
population explosion, which, at least in Pakistan, makes it very difficult really to take care of the growing population. In India, I don't know if the population rate of growth has slowed down, and what is the so
Quite
water is going
significant
to be a
though
problem.
now.
And the blood issue, yeah,
One
the blood
percent.
issue, we know that blood transfusion from one to another doesn't require any religion. So I think these are two important factors. Absolutely.
Very interesting thing. Dr. Ishaq, I would also like to ask you about what Professor Chatterjee has suggested, this science guftagu. It's only in his mind at the moment. Do you have any suggestions how to take it forward? Like if we could create a platform where science students could interact or maybe share their thoughts and ideas, or on a higher level, senior professors like Professor Chatterjee himself, and he took some names from Pakistan also, with whom he was interacting.
You see, the problem is on both sides, I know people are ready to do it anytime. It's the governments which stand in the way. So that is something we three can't handle. But
Do you
our
think
programs, hopefully
platform?
somebody is following, and they learn from what we are saying. We are saying in the best interest of both India and Pakistan. There is no attempt
Well, of
to
course.
favor one at the cost of the other. Yeah.
Exactly. So, do you think if an online platform is created, so the governments on both sides will have any problem with that, where people can
Well, I
share
think
what
when the
ideas?
SARC project was announced, initially teachers were coming, professors were visiting, for a while it happened. But
Hmm.
then once again, terrorism, Kargil, and these issues sabotaged it. I still believe in SARC. I think SARC is a workable thing. We can start with it and go forward. So the will has to be created in Islamabad and Delhi. Not we are convinced that cooperation is the way forward, not confrontation. How to
Certainly.
bring about a change of mind in a sincere manner, lasting manner, irreversible manner. That's what is important.
But
Uh,
when we were talking to Professor Mukhia, you remember we had this discussion about the language that's being used on both sides. First, we have to find a language in which dialogue for peace can be initiated, which is not tarnished with uh, anything that can create bad taste on both sides.
yeah,
What,
we
Professor
all the
Chatterjee?
programs we have done are in that spirit. The problem
Yes,
is when we are going to read the comments, the vitriolic comments, the negative comments, but we have to learn to ignore them. The trolls should just be ignored. We continue doing what we know is best for our people. That's the right thing to do. Professor Saab, I would like you to tell us how physics has uh, changed the world and what is the situation at the moment. How can it be used to continue changing the world?
Well, the electricity that we use, it was a discovery made by scientists, and that branch of science we call it physics.
Yeah.
The steam engine, it gave rise, or its principles are finally understood by the area of science called thermodynamics.
Hmm.
And the modern world, the communication that we are having, we are speaking to each other. What we are doing today wouldn't have been possible unless semiconductor devices developed, they could be miniaturized. Our smartphone is a
Yeah.
miniature object.
Okay.
And it is through this process. See, I believe that science, when it goes into the hands of interested capitalists or monopolies, they leave the large masses out of it. But the people who are determined, they use the same objects created by monopoly for promotion of their ideas, as we are doing today. I
Precisely.
only own a mobile phone or a laptop. You also do that. None of us have manufactured it. Yes. So the person who are the the worker who manufactures does not own either the means of production or also the profit. They are completely alienated. But the same worker, by purchasing it, can use it for the purpose which they think is socially important. So this gives us a process. I would say that for lovers of peace and people interested in scientific temper, science and technology have reached a certain level which we can use far better with lesser hindrance than we could do 20 years ago.
That's
And
true.
this is a message that we should keep in our mind.
You know,
yes.
when I was in India last year, some friends were saying that we have so many software outsourcing possibilities that Pakistani young people do not have to go out of Pakistan, drown in the seas. We can just give them all the jobs needed. So I sort of put it through in my videos. But in Pakistan, nobody is listening to that. Otherwise, so many jobs created in Bangalore can be outsourced to people in Pakistan. So I think the problem is uh, the confrontation between India and Pakistan. I think
I,
as
so
yeah, Jay.
it reminds me, I had a problem with my MacBook that I'm using, and I called Apple because it was maybe 5 6 months ago, and
I see.
they provided me online technical help, and it was a young lady from Bangalore who helped me, and she was speaking very fine Urdu, which was such a surprise. And
So that's
after initial few minutes, and she said something in very very clean Hindi or Urdu, whatever you like to call it. And I was surprised. Maybe, can you speak Urdu? Yes, I can speak Urdu. So, and then we had our the rest of our discussion. She helped me out with it
so
very well.
why should this go via Apple? Why can't we do it directly? That's the question.
So
That's the
she
question.
was very smart.
I,
Very yes.
I will tell one experience. If a friend of mine, very close for the last 30 years, his son now has a software startup, which is doing fairly well. And when I gave this idea, which emerged last year while Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed was visiting us, when I told this to my friend's son, Ajit Padmanabhan, that is it possible? He said, Uncle, I've already done it. He says, I have already got one of my jobs done through a group in Karachi.
So
Okay,
things are
I had
happening.
given this. He said, I have done it already. And I said, did you have any hassles? He said, no, uncle, I never had any hassle. They did the work very satisfactorily, and I'm completely satisfied. But to continue that process, there should be many more people.
Yes,
Or there
there
should
should
be
be many
someone
more
else
people.
from Pakistan who will say that, let us contact Ajit Padmanabhan once again. That did not happen. This time,
That
Ajit contacted the group in
We need
Pakistan.
to encourage that thing. We
this
need
is
to encourage
this is
that thing.
being done by individuals. It has to be
Yes,
done
please.
by institutions, I think. Yeah.
I think
Yes,
individuals
yes.
also play a very important role. People can, these young people are very smart in these things. They can create a portal, they can create, they can have a pool of jobs and whatever assignments, they can post them and hire people from across the border. There's always this possibility. I don't think that the government needs to get involved in what people want to do. If people want to do online business with each other, do you think it will be a problematic thing for young people to do?
It is not
I don't think
problematic because these do not go through government. It is
exactly.
one interested party here who runs a business, has identified somebody else who is located elsewhere, and they get in touch with each other, and government cannot interfere in these things.
So
So
how is the
this is a
payment?
possible.
How is the
Please,
payment made in these transactions? How do
that
they?
I don't know that, but that I will find out. They agree with a certain.
PayPal, another
PayPal. I see.
ways of
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
see.
yes, yes.
I
I
see.
don't know the details.
bypasses.
What is the route that they take?
Okay.
But
Yes,
he has done it. He has done it, and that's what he. When I first told him that Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed and we were discussing whether this possibility is there, he said, "Uncle, I have already done it. It is possible, and I'll be." And I was very satisfied. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is very very
because see,
encouraging
there's a
thing.
prejudice also. Prejudice also. that, okay, we are better, they can't do it properly. No such thing, no such thing. Okay. So
that people are really affected by those that kind of venom which our older generations were. I'm very happy about it. At least I can see in my younger generation. I would like to share something very interesting if we have time very quickly. There was this Pakistani movie about the conflict between India and Pakistan. It came out like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I took my son to the cinema. It was he was very young at that time, and both Indian and Pakistani pilots meet somewhere in Dubai, and the Indian pilot's name is Arun, and they are having a cup of tea and having a laugh together. And he said, "Is Arun a friend?" Yes, of course. It was such a surprise for him that Arun could be our friend. Yes, Arun, we are gentlemen. Well, war and fight is different thing, but when you are sitting together, you can always be friends with each other. So I think that is the kind of thing that needs to be explained to young people at a very early age.
Absolutely, absolutely. As scientists, social scientists or natural scientists, we have a special uh, task to perform because we deal with logic, rationality, and evidence. I think these three things have to be emphasized as the basis for generating knowledge and going forward. You know
Yes.
what? I don't know what is the situation in India, but in Pakistan, unfortunately, scientists are not all that free to do what they have to do. For example, there was a professor at Peshawar who was teaching this theory of evolution of Darwin, and the ulama Maulvis came and they forced him to sign that this theory is wrong and he will never teach it again. Now, have you such experience in India also, where scientists are being hounded up?
see, India is different from Pakistan, as your lectures themselves will tell you, and your experiences. But with the rise of religious fundamentalism,
Yeah.
there are certain interested parties which try to say things like this, that no, Darwin's theory is wrong. Okay. But you cannot straight away, but they get challenged by the scientific community itself.
So there is
I mean,
always
I
a
have
challenge.
signed,
Yeah,
yes, scientific community immediately challenges them.
I see.
Or there would be certain interested people who would say that Indians knew everything, and it is we lost our knowledge and supremacy only after foreign invasions.
That's the
Okay.
typical story. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, that is
So
always challenged.
shift the blame and come out clean of everything. Dr. Saf,
Yes,
yes. I would
no, no.
like to.
So even these historical fallacies are challenged both by scientists and also, of course, Professor Mukhya is a very eminent person. But there are many groups, including my group, All India People Science Network. We challenge because history has to be seen in a scientific way, based on evidence.
Based on evidence.
So,
Yeah, evidence.
yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Dr. Ishtiaq Ahmed Prof, I would like to thank you actually for inviting such an interesting, learned person as Dr. Chatterjee. It was a pleasure talking today, and I think our audience will learn a lot
I
from
hope
this
so. Yeah.
dialogue and discussion, and in the manner in which it is conducted. Would you like to add something before we go, Dr. Chatterjee?
No, I will say something, and then I think Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed, I would like him to revisit and spend a little longer time in Bangalore with us, because when he visited my son had many questions because he had read Professor Ishtiaq Sahab's book, which I had not introduced. He's a lawyer.
Right.
and he's interested in history. So he has many, just as I have. He has many Pakistani friends because with whom he studied together in Berkeley.
I see.
Unfortunately, they cannot visit each other, but they should make a certain methods of meeting, maybe in Dubai or somewhere else. Okay, so this is one. So Dr. Hassan Zafar Saab, you are also invited.
Thank you so much.
I am retired 10 years ago. My wife retired last year, and she's expressed that she wants to visit all the SAARC countries. And the first trip that we made was to Bangladesh, where we were for 18 days, just last year, just about a year ago. And we would be extremely happy to meet all of you in Pakistan, because I have seen one play. Let me tell you, you might find it as a funny. The title was this: Jinne Lahore Nai Vekya O Jamia Nahi. So I have not yet seen Lahore, so which means that my life has not yet begun. Am I right?
Yes, you're not.
So we would.
This is, the Lahoris are very, very.
So let me. I have that wish that we will meet in Bangalore, and we'll meet also in Pakistan.
We will meet in
our this kind of distant conversations will also continue. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. What a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much.
Thank you, please.
Take care of yourself on both sides.
Thank you, please. Thank you.
And
bye.